Speaking about animation, do you know much about animation?
Animation itself, like creating?
Yeah, like 2D animation, stuff like that.
A little bit. I messed with it back in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out Ronan. Remember Ronan? Yeah, y'all remember Ronan?
Big boy Ronan.
Vision. He was a legend on the gaming channel. We had a computer class back in middle school, and if he were here, he would be like, "Don't fucking talk about that shit," because I used to mess with him every day. I was like, "Hey, Ronan, what are you doing?" I was just tormenting him, being a little annoying person. But the one project I remember in particular from that class was we messed with stick figures, like them like figures that are on the signs in roads or like the bathroom or whatever. But these stick figures had appendages where we can move their knees, their elbows, their arms. Yeah, it was a rig. And our teacher had us make like a tiny animation. They said, as long as you include more than 2 characters and your little scene is at least 30 seconds long, do whatever. So
get the creative license.
Yeah. So I remember doing like this crazy kung fu type thing where I had my guy kind of do like a split kick where he jumped in the air, kicked 2 people. I remember a buddy of mine who was an overachiever. He was always smart. And then I had him for band, and he knew everything. And when it came to trumpet, he actually became drum major at his respective high school, at his respective band. I remember he did like punch, kicking the balls. Like he animated all of that. He animated the guy on the ground.
The extra mile.
Yeah.
Instead of just the basic, just move one thing, call it a punch. He actually like moved the entire body to do something.
Yeah. Or I remember, shout out Ronan yet again. He he made. I remember this so vividly. He made one of the stick figures so giant that he made another stick figure like a football. He kicked him, and he made an animation of this kicked stick figure flying around, and then the end of the scene has this little guy who's watching someone fly, and he's like, just like his arms were like in T-pose, and he just made his knees go. So his project was funny. Nice. So I know a little bit about animation, but not much. Like I know there's a lot that goes into it, whether it's the drawing aspect, the artist part, or the tediness of it is so high that it costs a lot of money to make a show.
Most of that why it's so expensive is because usually like stuff with like I don't know, like Family Guy or like something you actually see on TV that actually has a whole ass studio. They basically, that money goes to paying the artist, right? The artist. Some of those actually, or the actual animators, but some companies and stuff like that, which happens a lot, surprisingly, where you make the storyboard here in America, right, or whatever is being made, right? They do the storyboard, they do everything what it needs to be done, right, what the way it is, and if they want the animators to do anything specific, they can add little notes in the actual things. Yeah. Then there's like just that on itself. There's so many different ways you can do that. Right. So many different ways. So many ways do that, right? But regardless, that gets done, and then it gets shipped overseas to somewhere. A lot of times, a lot of the shows that we had growing up was in Canada. It'd be animated in Canada. Ooh. Right now, nowadays, a lot of the cartoons nowadays, like this era right now, is being like somewhere in like South Korea or like some other Asian places. Wow. I know the Philippines, they have a lot of those too, where they just specifically animate for big businesses and stuff like that. So it gets shipped overseas and gets back over here. And then and it's crazy too, like even though there's like cleanup artists where if they get the lip sync wrong or if they even don't do the lip sync at all, they just finish all that here in the States. Oh. And that's just with the big stuff. Now, if you're doing like small, like freelance or just basically like like on YouTube, there's a lot of like actual. There's animations everywhere. Like an actual series, like one like all that, like all that needs to come, like has to be people that you know. People most of the time it's gonna be here in the United States. Yeah. And that stuff is even more expensive to do because you need to actually pay people full price, everything like that, and you have to have like connections too with actually good artists who can do all that stuff. And they got to pay voice actors, and they got to pay all that stuff and stuff like that. And those people do it for the most part. They do it because they want to. Yeah. And then hopefully it's like in the back burner is like hopefully it gets bought by a company and I make some money.
Oh! He kicked the table and it went down. No, it connected. It reconnected. It went white for a second. That's hilarious. But yeah. I get that fully. The thing also is it's very time consuming.
Oh, very much so.
One episode could take months.
Yeah.
Simply, and then people are like, they want a whole season.
Yeah.
Like, say, typically an animated show has like 20 episodes a season, or like more than 10 at least. So if this takes 10 months for one episode, how long? Like, it takes a lot for an actual show.
Oh yeah, and that's not considering if they're animating in ones, twos, threes, the amount of frames per second and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you really want to get into it, like there's this YouTube channel called Noodle. Yeah, and it looks can I show the camera?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Kind of looks something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, and like his last couple of videos, he actually gets into like actual animations. Like the actual frames per second doesn't really, like, you've always heard like 60 frames per second is the smoothest ever. Well, that's not really the case. It just has to do with how well you get in animating in those styles. Because the brain is really good at filling in the dots or filling in between the lines. Yeah. So it's real interesting in that, but it's not something I actually am interested enough to actually do as a career.
Oh yeah. Me as a kid, I thought about it, but then when I saw what it is for TV, I was thinking, well, when I first thought about it, it was when I thought about video games. Because I was that type of kid that would watch all the extras. That's when like video games had content
like
in
the
them.
behind the scenes
and whatever. And
like in Mortal Kombat, all those different things you can actually look behind.
Yeah, exactly. The game, whatever. Because I would unlock everything in them, and then I would watch all the behind the scenes. So there would be like 3D test. There would be like the concept art. Plenty of concept art.
Dude, don't even get me started on 3D animation.
Oh, 3D animation too.
The Disney movies, like, I don't even watch them for the actual movie. I watch it for the actual animation. Like Frozen 2, I couldn't give two shits about the actual story. But the actual like animation there, I was like, my mind is freaking blown what they can do now.
It did look good. It looked really aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah, not only that, like it blew my mind because of basically all the physics they got into there. Like one that I actually do remember is it was like the freaking snowman was like having like a music or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like a fantasy, and they're just out on a picnic table and everything like that. And just the way that the actual corner of like the actual like blanket that they're on, they move it, the grass moves like organically. It moves like real life physics. The actual fabric, you can actually see the actual individual seams move. You can see it like interact and push the blades of grass. You can like see the rolling hills of like the wind. Like if you're out in the field, you can actually see like the wind pushing the grass and all that. Like holy cow! Like nowadays I only watch it for the actual like animation.
Right. And then going back to what you said about like having a certain style, I'm pretty sure Disney didn't have all that back in the day when they were still making their first animations.
Oh, when they're making the first animations, they actually did care because at that time they didn't realize that their name can sell.
Yeah.
Back then, actually, like Aladdin, Little Mermaid, Snow White, all that stuff, they were making it as best as they can so that people would actually watch it and buy it. And there was like some kind of a like joy and like a self-respect when it came to that kind of stuff.
Right.
They weren't like money grabbing everything. They weren't buying all this stuff. Like it hasn't turned into a huge corporation yet.
There was a movie I watched. I think it was based on Walt Disney and everything, where they would film it, and then it would be like papers and boxes, and I don't know how they animated it, but jeez.
Oh yeah,
they've come along, and then
that's the traditional one too. Nowadays, you can actually what you did with the stick figures. They're called rigs, and most of the animation nowadays, especially like with the cheap stuff, like for kid shows and everything like that.
Yeah.
Most of the time, it's not done frame by frame. It's done by this software.
Yeah.
They actually take the rigs, move it, and just kind of stretch them around a whole bunch, and then you could just add all the stuff later on, like lip syncing, blinking. Stuff like that. That's done after the fact. Traditional animation and the just really like high effort 3D animations are like my favorite thing to watch like ever in the world.
Yeah, for sure. And then one thing that also trips me out, like going back to Mortal Kombat, was it's so crazy that the first and second game, and I think even the third game too, they were all character sprites of real people that were digitized. And they had everybody pose for each and every single individual move. They had to make the costumes themselves. And it was kind of bad because, like, you have, like characters such as Goro, they couldn't make
with the forearms.
Or Goro or whatever. They had to make a little mold piece, and then they had to animate that.
Yeah, that specific type of technique is called rotoscoping.
Rotoscoping.
Yeah. So basically, they either take pictures, like back in the early days, like with that game, they only took pictures and actually animated around that.
Yeah.
But as time went on, or even back in like the actual like when the first cartoons came out, like Betty Boop, that kind of stuff, that rubber hose animation stuff.
Yeah.
They actually take an actual video of a person dancing or moving around, and then they actually animate on top of that. So that's why, like, so most of the time, like back then, in those rubber hose things,
yeah,
it's very fluid, right? So like if you actually get like somebody dancing, like one that I actually do really love is a Betty Boop song called St. James Infirmary. There's a character called Coco the Clown, and he's like dancing, and like he's dancing like very modern-esque, right? And he's actually the entire dance and everything is actually rotoscoped from an actual dancer called Cab Calloway.
Ooh.
And he was singing at the same time too.
Cab Calloway, I know.
It was one
Cab
of his
Calloway.
songs. It was one of his songs he was singing.
Which one was it?
St. James Infirmary.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think it was a cover of it.
I like the personal favorite of mine from Cab Calloway is Minnie the Moocher.
Oh yeah, they also did that one too.
Yeah,
just on your own time, man. Search it up.
Oh,
it's gonna be like a dancing walrus, and that dancing walrus was actually rotoscoped from the actual Cab Calloway dancing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he's immortalized. Well, he's been immortalized, but
of course.
But in animation too. I didn't think of it that way.
No, and it's really nice too because not only at the time they're really talented in the sense that they can actually animate on top of it, but since it's like if you actually watch it, like they move like they don't have bones sometimes, and it still looks as fluid as they're actually tracing on top of them. Like holy cow, I have a respect and for animation. I actually prefer animation, whether it be 2D, 3D, or anything like that, other than live action. Especially with like the movie stuff, like the MCU universe and everything like that.
I was gonna say, how do you feel about certain live action aspects?
Yeah, so basically, if it's just like a drama that you're watching with like no special effects, or if there's no like freaking fireballs or anything like that, like the Avatar: The Last Airbender, stuff like that, where you actually have some stuff that you can't really that you need CGI for.
Yeah. For
me, it kind of like you can tell like hardcore, even if it's really good, like in the MCU, like the new movies that are like Avengers Infinity War and stuff like that.
All of them were on green screen.
Yeah, I know. No, of course. But what I'm saying is, like, even though like that stuff is really nice, it still doesn't really, in my head, it doesn't translate perfectly because like you can see like it's live action and then CGI. Yeah. Even I guess it's just knowing the fact that it is CGI, not in like the same kind of format as them both. It kind of trips me a little bit. Whereas animation, like Avatar: The Last Airbender, you can see like them waterbend and everything like that. The actual person looks exactly the same style. And it looks exactly the same, like it's in the same world as the actual like water or fire or anything moving around.
You're talking about the show, right? Not the movie.
Oh yeah, the show.
Yeah, okay, thank God.
I know.
I was gonna say the Last Airbender of the movie is just trash.
But you know what I'm saying, right? Like it's seamless.
It's seamless.
It's not special effects. It's the entirety of the thing. And both the people, things moving around, and just stuff like that. Like it perfectly seamlessly works together. Yes. Whereas CGI, even in the good stuff too, like that kind of like the new movies that are coming out. Yeah. There's still like a disconnect that I'm not really seeing.
You're not seeing. Or how do you feel about when certain games or even movies are all live action, but they're animated over, where it's the actors, but they're in these suits. They got the mocap suits, and then they got these things all over. How do you feel about those?
Perfectly fine. Like God of War or The Last of Us, all of that stuff. Heck, even older too. They started doing that a long ass time ago. Yeah. Like the God of War. Some of those were actually rotoscoped, and like the older ones with the rig suit. You know, the ping pong balls. Yes. They actually get the actual footage of the ping pong balls digitally. Yes. And then they actually work a rig over that. And there's rigs like a perfect 2D. That's the rig that I was talking about, right? There's also rigs for 3Ds with the mocap suits and stuff like that. Since it's all the end product is all animated, it still looks in the same world. So I love that.
Yeah, I've liked mocap ever since like I saw the behind the scenes for Mortal Kombat, or recently on Instagram I saw the mocap behind the scenes for Resident Evil, the newest one. And Village? Like, the Village one, and I was like, whoa. Like, I can imagine, like, as an actor or someone who's, like, playing a role, you have to really immerse yourself in order, because you're in that environment where it's
and they record the lines with them actually acting it, too. That's actually real nice.
It's really nice. So, you have to immerse yourself tenfold. But then seeing it play out is still trippy, whether you're watching a scene in the game or the scene when they're recording on the mocap. It's amazing.
Yeah, there's a certain magic to it.
Yeah, or
there was a big letdown because I didn't see an 8-foot tall lady.
Oh, you thought there was an 8-foot tall?
No, I was just like, will they actually like find somebody that tall to actually mocap? Because you'll be surprised on the lengths they go to.
No, they do. Like Mafia 3, the actor Alex Hernandez, they only used his face for his face and his voice, and then did all that, and used a bigger actor to just do the movements when all the lines were said, and not even a full scene plays out. Like I'm assuming the actor for Alex Hernandez, who was stepping in body wise, they were just doing the movements while the other actors were of scale of size to the character they were playing.
Yeah, they
were doing their lines while they were just doing the movement. So it's a process, however way they go. And then one of the last ones I saw when it came to that was Jim Carrey. When he did A Christmas Carol. And just seeing...
Look, real quick, The Grinch was not CGI.
The Grinch was not CGI?
Yeah, it was all just... And the Cat in the Hat too. Well, of course, you flip the freaking cat around and everything. But the actual character is not CGI.
That was a costume?
Yeah, and of course there's cosmetic and everything like that. But still, Jim Carrey, have you seen him try to make the Grinch face without the makeup and all that? Legit, the man can actually do it.
Yes.
It's crazy, but continue.
And then, well, that's pretty much the same thing he was doing. Like all the faces he made as Scrooge in that movie.
Yeah.
All of that was genuinely him.
Oh, don't get me wrong. If there's certain, Jurassic Park and all that stuff, those old school, Alien, the Predator, and the stuff like that.
Yeah.
When most of it is actually, puppetry and stuff like that. And then they just kind of add the CGI to make it, polished and everything like that.
Yeah,
that
to fill in the gaps, yeah.
That right there, it still kind of captures the embodiment of it's in the same world. It's not like them, some other... You can clearly tell that, hey, this looks more organic. It belongs in this set of rules that it is reality.
Yeah.
Yeah. And puppetry, man, I that's another thing.
Puppetry.
Puppetry.